All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our NBA video here today for Sunday, April 18th. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. Now guys, we're coming off a 4-1 day in our 5 premium sports picks on my Patreon website yesterday. That's going to put us at 3-0 in our last 3 $1.99 daily best plays on that Patreon page. We're also 4-0 in our last 4 NBA tier package picks on that Patreon site as well. And if you're interested in purchasing an NBA tier membership, today's NBA tier package pick is going off in the afternoon slate of action here today. So just to give you a heads up about that, it's an earlier game. Now we currently have over 1,350 members who are signed up and active on that Patreon page. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, link for that site is in the description section below. Once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our first matchup here. I'm talking about the Pacers versus the Hawks, 1 p.m. Eastern start time. Atlanta's minus 2.5, totals 234. But despite playing some pretty good basketball here recently, Atlanta's been really battling through a ton of injuries. Reddish, Dunn, and Hunter, they've been out indefinitely for some time now. Meanwhile, Danilo Gallinari's been ruled out today as well, and John Collins might not play either. Atlanta tends to start slow at the State Farm Arena. They're in the bottom 10 in first quarter scoring at home. They've also dropped 8 out of their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Indy. And speaking of the Pacers, they've won 4 out of their last 6 ball games themselves. Now, the Pacers have been playing their best basketball on the road this season. They're in the top 5 in the NBA in road scoring. They're also in the top 10 in the association in road offensive field goal percentage. Malcolm Brogdon scoring over 21 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists for the guard. Meanwhile, Domantas Sabonis is grabbing nearly a dozen rebounds a night himself, along with 19 points. The Pacers are scoring nearly 116 points a game when they travel. And when it comes to the total in this one, the Pacers saw 5 out of their last 9 stay under the line, throwing out the Houston game. Meanwhile, the Hawks saw their last 3 straight stay under the total themselves, 5-2 to the under in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward the Indiana Pacers plus 2.5 and the under 234. Sorry, guys, if I sound a little nasally. Doing some yard work yesterday, so the pollen definitely was getting to me. But anyway, moving forward, Pelicans versus the Knicks, 1 p.m. Eastern tip-off. New Orleans is minus 1, totals 217.5. Now, the Pelicans are on a 2-game losing streak, 3-7 against the number in their last 10. New Orleans is one of the worst road covering teams. Well, not covering, but just one of the worst road teams in the Western Conference, straight up. They've been victorious in only 9 out of 26 road games, and they rank dead last in defending the 3-ball away from home. The Pelicans allow their opponents to make 41% of their three-pointers when they travel. New Orleans also allows nearly 117 points a game on the road as well. They're taking on a Knicks squad who's on a 5-game winning streak, and they successfully covered the point spread in their last 8. They're actually the hottest covering team in the NBA right now. The Knicks have also played really well at Madison Square Garden this season, 17-10 straight up as the home team, 63% against the number in those home games. Julius Randle scoring over 23.5 points per contest, 10 rebounds, 6 assists for the starting forward. Meanwhile, R.J. Barrett is scoring over 17 points a night himself, 5 rebounds, 3 assists for Barrett. Now, the cornerstone of this New York squad is their defense. New York leads the NBA defensively in points allowed. They've actually led the NBA defensively in points allowed for the entire season. They're also first in defensive field goal percentage, and they also lead the association in defending the 3-ball as well. The Knicks are giving up just 104 points a game. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, a lot of over-adjustment from the markets. The Knicks' last 3 straight ball games all got over the line, 6-2 to the over in their last 8. Meanwhile, 6 out of New Orleans' last 9 got over the line themselves, throwing out that Washington game. I'm going to lean toward the New York Knicks plus 1 and the over 217.5. Next contest, Nets Heat, 3:30 East. Brooklyn's minus 4.5, totals 222. Now the Nets have gone 3-0 against the number in their last 3 straight, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. Brooklyn's officially 20 games above 500 right now, and they still lead the NBA in road scoring. Kevin Durant's averaging 28 points a game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists for the NBA champion. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving's dropping 27.5 a game himself, 4 rebounds, 6 assists for Kyrie. Now, the Nets score nearly 121 points a game when traveling, and they make 50% of their field goals in that same category. They're taking on a Miami club who's in the middle of a 3-game skid themselves, just 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 as well. Miami struggled to get on the board this year, certainly not a team built for a track meet like they could potentially be here in this matchup with Brooklyn. Miami's in the bottom 5 in the NBA in scoring, bottom 3 in offensive rebounding. The Heat scores just 106 points per contest. Jimmy Butler's been ruled as questionable. He's battling an ankle. Meanwhile, Dedmon and Iguodala, they're also listed as questionable for today's action. Now, total-wise, Miami's last 2 straight did get over the number, 6-2 to the over in their last 8. Meanwhile, Brooklyn's last 2 straight got over the line themselves, 5-1 to the over in their last 6. The Nets are also 17-9 to the over as the official road team. I'm going to lean toward the Brooklyn Nets minus 4.5 and the over 222. Next ball game, Rockets versus the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. The Orlando Magic are minus 1, totals 219. Orlando's covered the number in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out the Raptor game. And despite the absence of Carter Williams, Porter, and potentially Mo Bamba here today, Orlando's led by Terrence Ross, who's scoring over 15.5 points a night, along with 3 rebounds and a couple assists. Wendell Carter Jr. is also scoring 14.5 points a game himself with the Magic. 8 rebounds and a couple assists a night for the former Chicago Bull. Orlando has somehow managed to have a winning record against the spread at home this year. They've also done a pretty nice job in the rebounding department. They're in the top 10 in home offensive rebounding. Now they're taking on an egregiously tanked Houston team who's sitting John Wall and Sterling Brown today. Meanwhile, Gordon, House, Augustin, and Exum, they're all still out for the Rockets as well. They've been out for a while, nothing really changing with their statuses. Now this dumpster fire of a team, they've lost their last 5 straight, and they also dropped 10 out of their last 11. The Rockets are currently 28 games below 500, and they've gotten the W in only 7 of 28 road games. The Houston Rockets are last in shooting the 3 ball, last in defensive rebounding. When it comes to the number in this one, Houston's last 5 straight all got over the line, 7-1 to the over in their last 8. Meanwhile, Orlando saw their last 3 straight get over the total themselves, 7-2 to the over in their last 9. Give me the Orlando Magic minus 1 and the over 219. Next ball game, Blazers, Hornets, 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off in Charlotte. Portland's minus 7, numbers 219.5. Damian Lillard's out for the Blazers today. He's battling a hammy. Now, the Blazers have also dropped 5 out of their last 8. And they successfully covered the number just 3 times during that span. Now, the Portland Trail Blazers have struggled defensively all season long. They're currently in the bottom 10 defensively in points allowed. They're also in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage as well. The Blazers allow 116 points per contest on the road. They're taking on a Charlotte team who, despite their struggles recently, they still have a winning record at the Spectrum Center. The Hornets have played really good defense as the home team this year. They're actually in the top 5 defensively in the NBA in points allowed at home. Now, in addition to that, the Hornets are in the top 3 in defending the 3 ball in that very same category. Terry Rozier's averaging over 20 points a game for Charlotte, 4 rebounds, 3 assists for the veteran guard. Miles Bridges is also scoring double digits a night himself, 5 rebounds and a couple assists for Bridges. Now Graham and Washington, they are both listed as questionable for Charlotte, so keep an eye on them, although I don't think they're going to have a huge impact on the game if they sit out. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Charlotte's last 5 got over the line, throwing out the Cleveland game. Meanwhile, Portland 16 and 11 to the over when they travel. I'm going to lean toward the Charlotte Hornets catching the points. Charlotte Hornets, what is that? +7 and the over 219.5. All right, next ball game, it is going to be Thunder versus the Raptors, 7 o'clock Eastern showdown. Toronto's -11.5, totals 220. And I don't care how bad OKC is, this number is just too big for Toronto in my personal opinion. Van Fleet, Trent, and Harris, they're all questionable. And believe it or not, some sites actually have Lowry, Siakam, and Anunoby on their injury reports as well. But regardless of who's playing or not, we're still looking at a team who's 11 games below 500, and they currently have a losing record on their home court. Now, Toronto's really struggled with rebounding this year. They'll be the second best rebounding team on the court here today. Toronto's dead last in the association in offensive rebounding, bottom 10 in defensive rebounding as well. Now, the Raptors also have a losing record when favored this year as well. They're taking on an OKC squad who's downright awful themselves, but having said that, they are the better rebounding team, and they do play just about as good of defense as Toronto does. OKC's currently in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive rebounding. They're also in the top 3 in defending the 3 ball on the road. As a matter of fact, the Thunder's holding their opponents to just 32% shooting from beyond the arc when they travel. OKC's also done a really nice job covering the point spread on the road this year as well. They're currently 16 and 11 against the spread away from their home court, and that's good for nearly 60% in that particular category. Despite the absence of Pokashevsky, Hall, and Deck, OKC's led by Lou Dort, who's scoring over 13.5 points a game, along with 3 rebounds. Darius Bazley's also dropping a dozen a game himself, along with 7 boards. OKC's currently in the top 10 in offensive field goal percentage on the road. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, 3 out of OKC's last 4 did stay under the line. 18 and 9 to the under when traveling. Meanwhile, the Raptors saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the number themselves, throwing out the Orlando game. I'm going to lean toward the OKC Thunder +11.5 and the under 220. Next contest, it is going to be Kings versus the Mavericks, 7:30 Eastern start time. Dallas is -8.5, totals 230. As bad as Sacramento's played recently, the Mavericks have done a really poor job covering the point spread lately. They're just 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 ball games, and they also cover just 38% of their home games. Now, the Dallas Mavericks have struggled quite a bit offensively at the American Airlines Arena this year. They're actually in the entire NBA. They're in the bottom 10 in three-point percentage at home. They're also in the bottom 10 in home offensive rebounding. Now, they're taking on a Sacramento team who's coming fresh off a nice cover against Phoenix the other day. And as bad as they've been, Sacramento's still covering the number in 50% of their road games, and they certainly have no problem scoring with the basketball. They're currently in the top 10 in the NBA in road scoring. Now, De'Aaron Fox, he's averaging over 25 points a game, 3 rebounds, 7 assists for the starting point guard. Meanwhile, Buddy Hield is scoring over 16.5 points a night himself, 4 rebounds, 3 assists for Hield. The Kings score over 113 points per night on the road. And when it comes to the total in this one, 2 out of Sacramento's last 3 ball games stayed under the posted number, 6 and 3 to the under in their last 9. Meanwhile, the Mavericks went 70% to the under in their last 10 themselves, 15 and 11 to the under on their home court. I'm going to lean toward the Sacramento Kings +8.5 and the under 230. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Timberwolves versus the Clippers, 10 p.m. Eastern tip-off. LA's -10, totals 231. Now, the Clippers may have to go to work here this evening without Kawhi Leonard. He's battling a foot injury. Having said that, though, the Clippers are still much better than the T-Wolves without their best player. LA's won 7 out of their last 8 ball games, 6 and 2 against the spread during that stretch. The Clippers are also currently 20 games above 500, and they're also 22-8 as the official home team. Now, they lead the NBA in three-point percentage. They're also in the top of the league in shooting from the stripe as well. Paul George, he averages over 23.5 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5.5 assists for the multi-time All-Star. George is also draining 44% of his three balls. Meanwhile, Marcus Morris is scoring 13 points a game, and he drills over 47% of his three-pointers as well. The Clippers make nearly 43% of their three-pointers as a team at the Staples Center. They also give up just 108 points per contest on their home court. Now, they're taking on a horrible Minnesota team who wins just 17% of their ball games on the road. The T-Wolves are officially just 5-23 straight up when they travel, and they're nearly 30 games below 500 already. Minnesota's currently dead last in defending the three ball. They're also dead last in points allowed. They're giving up almost 122 points a game away from home. And they also let their opponents make just 40% of their three-pointers in that same category. So with that in mind, LA might just set a three-point record here tonight if they can get hot. Now, total-wise, Minnesota's last two straight got over the line, 6-2 to the over in their last 8. They also saw 7 out of their last 10 meetings with Los Angeles get over the total. Meanwhile, the Clippers, on the other side of things, they are 18-12 to the over as the official home team. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers -10 and the over 231. And with that, guys, we're going to hop into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like the Indiana Pacers +2.5 under 234. New York Knicks +1 over 217.5. Brooklyn Nets -4.5 over 222. Orlando Magic -1 over 219. Charlotte Hornets +7 over 219.5. OKC Thunder +11.5 under 220. Sacramento +8.5 under 230. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 3-0 in our last 3 $1.99 daily best plays on my Patreon website. We're also 4-0 in our last 4 NBA tier package picks on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers -10 and the over 231. And with that, guys, now it's time for our YouTube shout-outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Yuli135, Daniel Robb, Robert McLaren, Jeremy Alexander, Dre Sargent. Shout out to your boy Bert, Nero Neithsreg. Shout out to Nimo Warshawiak, Kamoni Benjamin. And last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my good friend, Paula Lampe. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind, Patreon is going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month if you continue to opt in. So if you do end up getting a package here today, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of April. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.